and WDEV. WDEV believes in airing a wide variety of opinions and perspectives. The views expressed in the following feature do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of WDEV. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to WDEV@radiovermont.com.
And now, here's Eye on the News with commentator John McClory.
Bill McKibben, the climate activist at Middlebury College and the leader of 350.org, now appears to be tiptoeing away from his ardent anti-nuclear views of yesteryear. In a journal article that appeared last week, McKibben says this: "The shift away from combustion is large and novel enough that it bumps up against everyone's prior assumptions, environmentalists too. The fight against nuclear power was an early mainstay of the Green movement because it was easy to see that if something went wrong, it could go badly wrong. I applauded more than a decade ago when the Vermont legislature voted to close the state's old nuclear plant at the end of its working life. But I wouldn't today. Indeed, for some years I've argued that existing nuclear reactors that can still be run with any margin of safety probably should be, as we're making the transition. The spent fuel they produce is an evil inheritance for our descendants, but it's not as dangerous as an overheated Earth, even if the scenes of Russian troops shelling nuclear plants added to the sense of horror enveloping the planet these past weeks." Well, thanks for that, Bill. He and I have radically different views of the supposed climate emergency, and I have little concern about the safe management of spent nuclear fuel, but he finally dares to say that nuclear power is essential to avoiding an overheated Earth. That's progress. This is John McClory. Thanks for listening.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt, and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny. When I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean. And there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Gary LaVox from Rascal Flats. You know, music has always been a huge part of my life. It's something that I started pursuing as a kid and never gave up on. It took a lot of hard work and dedication, but it paid off. Music has allowed me to travel around the world and to meet a lot of interesting people. So don't let anybody tell you that your dreams aren't possible, because they are. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to WDEV@radiovermont.com.
The teams you care about.
The Patriots are now closer to the bottom of the AFC than the top. That's a fact.
The stories that matter to you.
Trevor Story, man, he makes the Red Sox much, much better in 2022.
This is your home for New England sports.
I'm just wondering what happens next for UVM, because I think there could be a lot of turnover on that roster.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. It's a Wednesday, a full Wednesday, all 90 minutes. We go right up until 7 o'clock, and then it's Jazz with George Thomas, and then it's our new show, Eye on the World, coming up at 9 o'clock. Ton to get to. Red Sox and Bruins insider at NESN, Tom Caron, is going to stop by at 5:45. You'll hear a bit from Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio. And we'll learn a little bit more about Bryant University, the newest conference rival for UVM, as it was announced yesterday that they are joining the America East Conference. You can get in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026, your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. You can also check us out on our Facebook live stream, YouTube Live, and today I'm trying something new. I've got the broadcast going live on my Twitter account at WDEV Radio Brady. So you can watch us digitally all over the place. So let's waste no time and let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center. Locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. I actually want to start the show today with a couple of text messages that we got yesterday and then into the morning this morning, because there's a couple of really good questions that I got on the text line. So Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, always open, 802-585-3026. First one came from Lou in Heinsberg. These are all about the Patriots. So Lou in Heinsberg. Brady, you talked yesterday about Robert Kraft putting pressure on Bill Belichick for this year. But do you think that Robert Kraft doubts Bill Belichick right now? That's a great question. Do we think that Robert Kraft doubts Bill Belichick? I will say yes. I think that Robert Kraft does doubt Bill Belichick, but I think that Robert Kraft has probably always doubted Bill Belichick. And it's always worked out, hasn't it? So I do think for Kraft, there's an element of doubt, but there's also an element of in Bill we trust. But when you're as powerful as Robert Kraft is, when you're as rich as Robert Kraft is, and when you're not in control yourself, I think you're naturally kind of quizzical of those who work around you, right? Like Robert, when you're that powerful, you tend to like to be in control. And when you're not in control, you tend to be a little bit antsy about what everybody else is doing. So I think there is an element of Robert Kraft who, in Bill we trust. It's always worked. It's always worked. So I got to believe it's going to. But I also think there's an element of, it's always worked, but I don't know how it works. And I don't know that it's going to work right now. Like, here's what Robert Kraft said yesterday about Belichick.
Bill has a unique way of doing things. You know, it's worked out pretty well up to now. So I know what I don't know, and I try to stay out of the way of things I don't know. I think he's pretty good. I don't know, is it over 40 years of experience doing it? So it doesn't sometimes look straight line to our fans or to myself, but I'm results oriented.
Okay, so he said basically everything I just said there, right? That it's always worked out. I try to stay out of the way. He's got 40 years of experience. So I do trust Bill Belichick. But when he says it doesn't look linear to our fans and it doesn't look linear to me, he's acknowledging like it works, but I don't quite know how it works. So I do think that there is doubt in Robert Kraft's mind. Again, does not mean that Bill Belichick is on the hot seat, does not mean that Bill Belichick is coaching for his job this year. But if you ask me, Brady, do you think that Robert Kraft doubts Bill Belichick? My answer would be, yeah, there is some doubt there. Anytime you're as powerful as Robert Kraft is and your success depends on other people, I think you always have a degree of nervousness. So I got to think, and Kraft knows Belichick, he admitted it there, like it's not always linear. Bill Belichick does things kind of weirdly, right? Cut this guy, sign that guy, trade that star, pay that guy more than anyone else would have. Don't pay that guy when everybody else would have. Robert Kraft knows that Bill Belichick just does things a little bit differently. And when you have somebody that does it differently and has their own style, I think there's always doubt that creeps in. I think there's always wondering, like, it's always worked out, but is it going to keep working out? So, yes, I think that there is some doubt there when it comes to Bill Belichick from Robert Kraft. Ironically enough, I asked that question because it was such a good text. I asked that question of Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio when I spoke to him earlier this afternoon. Here's what Freddie said.
I don't believe so. I don't have that. I didn't get that kind of feeling from Robert Kraft in terms of doubting, because he still has a team with terrific players. But I also think he looks at the landscape of what the AFC has been able to do. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're still terrific. Cincinnati made the Super Bowl last year. The whole AFC West division is going to be a bloodbath. What the Colts were able to do, bringing in Matt Ryan to be their quarterback. Tennessee was the number one seed last year in the AFC. So I think he looks at the landscape of the AFC, and he wants the team to understand that there should be a sense of urgency, that we can't just rely on what we did for the past 22 years and think it's going to be okay. I firmly believe that's where that statement came from.
Okay, Freddie and I disagree. I think there is a doubt, but I also think that Robert Kraft hopes that things will settle like they always have. Robert in Shelburne, he got in this morning on the text line. Said, Brady, how do you think Robert Kraft feels about the way this offseason has transpired? I think Robert Kraft feels like a lot of us do, really. I think Robert Kraft feels like every single one of us, and that is blindsided by what we have seen this offseason. The amount of activity. This has been so nuts this offseason. I don't think anyone could have seen what has happened coming. And I think Robert Kraft feels like every single one of us, and that we've all been caught at least semi-flat-footed here. We were prepared for some big movement, right? We were prepared for Aaron Rodgers. We were prepared for Deshaun Watson. We were prepared for the possibility of Russell Wilson. We knew that all of them were possible, but Wilson happened and Watson happened. And then Carson Wentz, a little lesser, but Tyreek Hill and Khalil Mack, the number of big-time players, the number of highly priced players, the numbers of players with big pedigrees and big resumes that have changed teams, I think that has caught everybody by surprise, Robert Kraft included. I think Robert Kraft walked out of that Patriots blowout loss in the playoffs to Buffalo. I think Robert Kraft walked out of there saying, you know what? Today was a bad day, but we're in a really good spot. Back on January 15th or whatever, I think Robert Kraft believed that. We've got a great head coach. We've got stability in our organization. We've got a young quarterback. And we've got a number of good players under contract. I think Robert Kraft felt really good about the Patriots in January. Robert Kraft now, I think, like all of us, has been so blindsided by what's happened that he's been left wondering, like, where do we really stand here? I mean, what exactly has happened around us? I think he looks at it's like the Tasmanian devil. Like, we went from almost winning our division to being in the bottom fourth of the conference just like that. And even if Robert Kraft thinks his team is better than I do, he can't be looking around going, hey, we're a Super Bowl contender right now. He says he wants to be. That puts the pressure on Belichick. That raises the expectations on Belichick. But I can't think that Robert Kraft is real thrilled about what has transpired. Final text that came in overnight on the Napa Morrisville Napa Waterbury text line. Marvin in Essex Junction. Do you think that Kraft would ever actually fire Bill Belichick? Man, I don't think that Kraft would ever want to fire Belichick. I think if it came to the point where the organization wanted to move on, I think they would do everything that they could, that Robert Kraft would do everything that he could to come to an agreement where Bill Belichick would resign, where he would move upstairs to a senior advisory role. I think they'd do whatever they could to make it a nice parting. And I think they would try to give Belichick a chance to still have great standing in the organization. That said, if Belichick would not accept any of that stuff, then I think yes. I think that Robert Kraft would physically be able to fire Bill Belichick. He would not want to, but I think he would physically be able to. I mean, if he had the stomach for letting Tom Brady go, a guy who won him 6 titles, who he looks at as a son, as he said, if he can have the stomach to let Tom Brady go, he could have the stomach to fire Bill Belichick. I do not believe that he would want to. He would do everything he could to avoid that situation. He'd try to make it as nice as possible. But if Belichick wasn't having any of it, then yes, I believe that Robert Kraft physically has it in him to fire Bill Belichick. I do not think that we're even close to being there yet, though. Joe's got a question on the text line about Bryant University. We'll get into that later in the show because we got a lot of stuff on Bryant in the America East. Virginia in Starksboro bringing me the crass comment of the day. Why is it okay for Robert Kraft to go to massage parlors, but it's not okay, but Deshaun Watson gets punished? Well, take a shot at that right now. What Robert Kraft did was consensual, although illegal. When you talk about prostitution, illegal, but consensual. And it went to court, and I got to remember exactly how everything paid out, but he wasn't even punished by the league because it got, the legal system, the whole thing broke down. When we thought it was human trafficking and all that, it was a lot bigger deal to everyone. What Robert Kraft did was illegal but consensual. What Deshaun Watson has allegedly done, largely not consensual based on these allegations, made people uncomfortable, was inappropriate. And there is a difference there. So that is that. And then this is a new one on the text line. The Murdog from Duxbury. The Murdog gets in a question about overtime. I talked a lot yesterday about overtime and how you're never going to find an easy or an answer that makes everybody feel good when it comes to NFL overtime. He says, Brady, there is a way to do it. Only flip the coin at the beginning of the game. Makes deferring to the second half a costly decision. The team that has the first possession of the game has the first possession of overtime, and then it would be sudden death. So basically, the Murdog wants you to have the ball first. Well, if you take the ball first, I see what he's saying. Okay. If you defer to the second half, like most teams do, they take the ball coming out of halftime. You are running the risk of not getting the ball first in overtime. Whereas if you take the ball first, which everybody doesn't like to do, you would guarantee yourself the possession in overtime. That is an interesting premise. And I haven't given a lot of thought to that because I haven't read it until this second. So it would make deferring to the second half a costly decision. You're still basing, though, I think everyone's issue is that overtime is decided by a coin toss. Overtime would still be decided by a coin toss. However, it would just be done at the start of the game. So, no, I guess I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't mind the coin toss, though, and I don't mind overtime as it was. I'm apparently in the minority on that, but I don't mind overtime as it's been. Like, play a lick of defense, and you genuinely can be okay. Play a lick of defense. Like, everything's changed. The rules have changed, right, because of the Mahomes and Josh Allen game this year. Well, think about this. There's, 3 possible scenarios that happened in that could have happened for Patrick Mahomes in that game. So the Chiefs got the ball first in overtime, right? Mahomes can go down and score a touchdown and end the game. Fine. So that's one outcome. 2 is Mahomes can go down and get a field goal and the game keeps going. 3 is the Chiefs can turn the ball over, whether it's on downs or whether it's a physical turnover. 2 of those 3 outcomes aid the Bills. So the odds are still in the Bills' favor. Everyone's like, the Chiefs got the ball first, therefore they had the clear advantage. Well, yeah, but 2 of the 3 possible outcomes still favor the Bills. Hold them to a field goal or turn them over somehow. You get the ball back. We're never having this discussion. You allowed the thing that had a 33% chance of happening, you allowed to happen. So there you go. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Joe says, I hate the rule change. I mean, come on, if you want a chance to get the ball in overtime, it's simple. Stop the other team. Thank you very much. Let's see. Joe also says, as a Pats lifer, I know the day would come where it would take a few years to get back to being a constant contender in the AFC, but now it's not our time. The AFC is way too strong right now. I agree with you. He says, in Bill we trust, but, doesn't feel good about where things are at. I agree with you. We'll go down to Fort Myers, Red Sox spring training. Tom Caron, our Sox insider at NESN. Why was Trevor Story hitting sixth today? We'll talk about that. That's next on DEV.
Hi, everyone. This is Jess Langlois.
And Chief Meteorologist Dan Dowling.
From the Channel 3 Max Advantage weather team, reminding you that every day we are tracking the weather and getting you the most accurate forecast.
From the most experienced weather team tonight from 4 to 7 and at 11 p.m.
We forecast with straight talk and no hype.
So you can take advantage of the clear days
and have the advantage over stormy weather.
There's a 100% chance of accurate, experienced, and trusted forecast
tonight and every night from the Channel 3 Max Advantage weather team.
First in weather.
Sunday night on WDEV, we delve into the news of the week. Join us at 6 p.m. for Face the Nation, followed by The Takeout with Major Garrett. Then award-winning 60 Minutes follows at 8 p.m. Then it's business analyst Jill Schlesinger, offering personal financial advice on retirement and investing during Jill on Money from 9 to 11. It's all capped off with CBS Weekend Roundup from 11 to midnight. Sunday nights on WDEV AM and FM, streaming at WDEVradio.com.
Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Looking for the latest information on the Red Sox?
Not only is David Ortiz a Hall of Famer, but he is one of the best of the best.
How about the Bruins?
Are they a Stanley Cup champion? Probably not as presently constructed, but they're a playoff team.
And you've come to the right place. We talk now with NESN insider Tom Caron.
Baseball isn't boring because there's still nothing like the communal gathering of fans at a baseball game.
On the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
All right, welcome back in. Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Red Sox won at spring training today. They beat the Braves by a score of 10-7. Tom Caron of NESN was on the call for that game for television. As a result of that, he and I spoke earlier this morning, so that's why you won't hear us talk about the game, but we did talk about the interesting lineup construction in this game and what it all means. So I started out by saying, TC, how are you?
Doing well, Brady. How you doing?
Excellent. Appreciate you being with us as always. And again, we're taping this, before the game actually airs. So I don't know how this lineup is going to actually play out today, but it looks like this could be the opening lineup for Alex Cora and the Red Sox April 7th against the Yankees. So let's dissect it here. The first thing that stood out to me, Trevor Story hitting sixth. Seems like a little low in the order for a guy you're paying $140 million to.
Yeah, I think it's for a couple of reasons. We just talked to Alex Cora about it, and, a couple of things to point out today. They really don't have a lot of left-handed options, and I think we wanted to mix them up a little bit, which is why Brady goes up a little higher than you might. That's really about the left-right mix of the batting order as opposed to any individual. He also pointed out that he thinks Trevor Story can use his speed more in the sixth hole rather than maybe a potential out if you're being a little overly aggressive. Higher up in the order, down in the sixth spot, you can kind of go after it and grab that extra base, whether you're going first or third on a hit or trying to score from second or just steal a base, which we know Story can do. He also said against lefties, you probably see Story hit a lot higher, maybe second, with Devers dropping down a little bit. So this isn't a permanent thing, but he wants to sort of play with it and see if this is where it comes together. But he did say, as of right now, this probably will be your lineup for opening day in New York.
What do you think of Verdugo in the 5 spot? Okay, I'm with you, a little higher up than you would expect. But when I think of the 5 spot, I think of a guy who's got major run-producing potential and a good amount of power. Verdugo is more of a contact gap-to-gap hitter. Do you think he could hold his own in the 5 hole for a prolonged period of time?
Talk about Verdugo. The interesting thing is he's got power to the gaps, right? Not necessarily a big home run guy, but when he's staying within himself, he can certainly use that left center gap and pull a little bit to right center gap. I think they like the possibility of him unlocking that power potential to the gaps a little more as he goes. But again, I really think, more than anything, and again, I will say, if you follow the game closely now, the batting orders, listen, the best hitter always used to be what? The 2 guy, the 3 guy, right? Your most powerful guy was your 4 guy. Lineups aren't like that anymore. They really are. There's a lot of analytics going into it. There's a lot of splits. Most teams change their lineup every day based on how these guys hit against that type of pitcher. Remember, they never look at the head-to-head splits anymore. It's not how you do against this pitcher. It's how you do against this profile of pitcher. A lot more goes into it than the old days. 5 guys got to be a power guy. I think they look at the possibility of having a lot of traffic going on. Doogie is a guy who can control the bat and move runners along, and then you've got that power threat with Story. It's an interesting lineup. I certainly did not expect Trevor Story to have 6, as you said, with that kind of contract. And again, we'll see. They expect to face a lefty on Sunday in New York. They expect to face a lefty. I think they said Wednesday in Detroit. So you probably have, 2 of your first 6 games. So we'll see how often they face lefties or how often how long they stick with the original experiment. And the other part is, do you give Bogarts a day off once in a while? Does Story move over to shortstop, especially at the beginning of the game? Of course, they haven't had that discussion yet. Not everybody likes to do that when they're learning a new position. They don't want to bounce back and forth. He said, we'll have to see about that.
All right, that's the lineup. Let's talk about the roster itself. Jarren Duran's sent down to AAA camp, so he's not going to be the 4th outfielder, at least at the beginning of the year. Who's got the leg up there? Is it Franchi Cordero or is it Rob Refsnyder?
Well, right now, I don't think it's either. Right now, I think it's Christian Arroyo as the super utility guy. They've had Arroyo working quite a bit in the outfield. He was out there yesterday and looked pretty good. Alex Cora telling us that JD Martinez is going to be part of the outfield mix, especially in right field against lefties. That might be when Jackie Bradley Jr. isn't in the lineup as much. So it's an interesting mix when you start to talk about the depth in that outfield. You know who the top 3 guys are. You know who the 2 starters are going to be. But if you're rotating those guys through, what it means is you don't necessarily have to keep a 4th outfielder per se. You might have those guys on your bench already, which would either allow you to have another super utility type or even another pitcher.
From the pitching standpoint, we know that there's going to be 28 players on this roster in April, and that's going to allow you to keep more pitchers. We kind of know the main players in that Red Sox bullpen, but who's kind of come out of nowhere and looks like they might have a spot at least early? I mean, I don't know where Cutter Crawford came from yesterday throwing 98.
Well, remember, he made his major league debut last year. Yeah. It didn't go great, but Cora was quick to say he's a major league pitcher. They really like him. They think his stuff playing. He was just raving about him again this morning when we were talking to Cora. The interesting guy, Derek Holland is an interesting guy, 13-year veteran, was actually a teammate of Alex Cora's in Texas, and a teammate of Dave Bush, the pitching coach, was his teammate in Texas as well. He has looked pretty good so far. Michael Wacha was really good and is going to be part of your rotation at the start. We know that. It's interesting that it's the veteran guys, not necessarily young guys, but veteran guys. Now, Diekman has really struggled here at the start. We saw that again yesterday. Strom's been pretty good. So they've got some lefty options to be sure. Josh Taylor's not going to be ready at the start of the season. He did talk, at least at the beginning of the season, because of the days off, not necessarily because of the rotation, but Whitlock will be available in the bullpen, he said, on opening day. Which means, and he brought him up when he was asked about the closer. So Barnes, Whitlock are guys who could wind up coming in at the end. And again, they've got 2 days off, I think, in the first 8, and then it's 17 in a row. So you can survive the first week with 4 starters, but then you're going to need to go 5 and keep that rotation going. So we'll see if it's Whitlock. I would think Rich Hill and Tanner Houck are going to be in the rotation start. So I think Whitlock, to me, I don't know about you, Brady, but to me, while I know a starter gives you more innings and maybe more impact, over an entire game, I think the ability to have a Garrett Whitlock coming out of the pen, 2 out of 3 days, a couple of times in the series, that's a weapon you can utilize a lot more.
Well, interesting. We're going to react to that here after we get you off the phone, which we'll do here momentarily. I know your time is a little more limited today. Let's get a Bruins question in here. Bees lose to the Maple Leafs yesterday. It's a big loss considering the Maple Leafs came into that game with the same amount of points as you did. We're getting down to the end of the regular season. How big was yesterday's setback?
I don't know how big it is, but it was a big disappointment, right? I mean, you're at home. It's Toronto. As you said, you come in with the same points. And it's just, I was looking for intensity and emotion. And, that first period was as ugly a period. Now, they came out, I thought they played a lot better in the second period. Hit, 3 posts? One of them they wound up scoring on the rebound. But 2 posts in the second period when they were really peppering. the Maple Leafs, and then they, a lackluster power play, give up a goal right after that, and basically it's game over. Showed a little spirit in the third period, but that's too little too late. It's a little ominous to me when a game that is as important as that gets that kind of response from the team. So they were flat. They didn't show any emotion coming into this. I just thought it was extremely disappointing.
Well, I'll get you out of here on this one. You're Mr. New England. Curious if you know anything about Smithfield, Rhode Island, because it sounds like our listeners need to start learning about it, because Bryant University is joining the America East to become UVM's newest rival. So I've never been to Smithfield, Rhode Island. Have you?
I have multiple times, because those of us old enough will remember that used to be where the Patriots held training camp.
Oh.
The New England Patriots always had training camp at Smithfield, basically at Bryant. And so that was every summer, the media would always flock to Smithfield. And Bryant, has been in a conference where they played Merrimack and they played the Connecticut teams, and they play Hobart, where my son goes in lacrosse. Good program that is really across the board in sports. And you saw them; they were fun to watch this year in the NCAA playing game when they made that run. It's a school much like Merrimack that has put a lot of money and a lot of improvements into their facilities to take that jump to full-time D1, and it's really paid off. It's a good school, a good program. And it's a beautiful part of New England. So, yeah, you'll have to brush up on your Rhode Island geography. But Smithfield, like St. Michael's College, a long-time NFL training camp site. Of course, the Giants were at St. Mike's forever, way back in the day.
Well, it looks like we'll be taking some trips to Smithfield for UVM contests. TC, next week when we talk, we're going to be on the eve of opening day. I can't wait. Enjoy the game today, and we'll talk again in 7 days.
Appreciate it, Brady. Thank you.
Absolutely. That was part of my talk earlier today with Tom Caron. Again, TC not live today because he was broadcasting the Red Sox game against the Braves. Red Sox did win that game 10-7. Trevor Story, for what it's worth, did have his first Red Sox hit, did have his first Red Sox RBI. That said, I still do have questions, the same questions I asked TC about the overall lineup construction for this team, and if this is going to be their opening day lineup. We will talk about that in the 6 o'clock hour. Rafael Devers homered today, his fourth of the spring, by the way, for the Sox. Can we get that man paid, please? Can we get him taken care of here with an extension? Lou up in the Champlain Valley area says, so great to hear TC's voice. Go Sox. That's right, TC. Opening day, by the way, we're going to have a lot of Red Sox baseball coming up here soon. Tomorrow, we've got Grapefruit League action, 1 o'clock, Sox and Twins. So we're playing a spring training game tomorrow. Monday, also playing a spring training game, Sox and Twins again, also 1 o'clock. And then those are just test runs for the opener, which is Thursday afternoon against the Yankees. First pitch 1:05. Nathan Eovaldi against Garrett Cole, and our coverage will begin at 12:05. We are your home for Sox baseball here at WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. And Tom Caron will be joining us every single week here on the Brady Farkas Show and on the Brady Farkas Show podcast channel. All right, CBS News. And then, was it okay for country music star Eric Church to cancel his concert so we can watch the Final Four? I'm taking your opinions on that. That's next on DEV.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 90 years of serving Vermont, the friendly pioneer, WDEV.
CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
I'm Stacey Lynn in Washington. Dangerous weather is tearing through a large chunk of the country. Damaging winds, thunderstorms, and tornadoes are threatening more than 60 million Americans. Over 100,000 homes and businesses are in the dark, from Texas to Tennessee. Several people were injured after an EF2 tornado hit 2 towns in Arkansas. And last night, an EF1 tornado touched down in St. Joseph, Missouri.
Me and my sister were on the front porch for a little bit because, St. Joe doesn't ever have tornadoes. So we went inside because the wind sounded really weird.
Fortunately, no one was hurt there. The line of storms will move east tonight with more severe weather possible through tomorrow morning. There's new intelligence today suggesting Russian President Putin feels a bit misled by his own military commanders. CBS's Skylar Henry with the latest.
A U.S. official tells CBS News there's tension between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his military leaders, and that Putin may be misinformed about the poor performance of Russia's military and the economy. In a nearly hour-long phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky Wednesday, President Biden discussed security assistance and pledged to provide $500 million directly to the Ukrainian government.
Well, so far, Russia hasn't followed through yet on its claims to pull back military operations. President Biden with a big push for lawmakers to authorize billions more dollars in funding to fight COVID before the money runs out.
We need a different vaccine for the future. To combat a new variant, we're not going to have enough money to purchase it. We cannot allow that to happen. Congress, we need to secure additional supply now.
In Oklahoma, Governor Kevin Stitt has signed a bill that prevents transgender girls and women from competing on female sports teams there.
How is it fair for female track athletes or swimmers who have been training since they were 12 years old to lose in a high school competition to a biological male? It's not. It's simply not fair.
Bruce Willis is retiring.
We know him best for his roles in the classic TV show Moonlighting.
Do birds fly? Do ducks duck? Excuse me, I have extraordinary credentials.
And mega hits like Die Hard.
Welcome to the party, pal.
But Bruce Willis's acting career is now over. His family says he is suffering from a condition called aphasia. It usually affects a person's ability to talk and understand. In a statement, Willis's family says he is stepping away from a career to him. Steve Futterman, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Dow closed down 65 points today. This is CBS News.
Dell's semi-annual sale has arrived. Save up to 45% on Dell business computers with Windows 11 Pro and get an easy start to your workday. Just call 877-ASK-DELL.
Dell's semi-annual sale is the perfect opportunity for a significant business upgrade. Save up to 45% on Dell computers with Windows 11 Pro and get an easy start to your workday. Plus, enjoy special pricing on Dell docks, monitors, servers, and more, all with easy financing options through Dell Financial Services. Speak to a Dell Technologies advisor today to find the right tech for your business with fast, free shipping. Call 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending Ooma and their all-in-one phone, video, and collaboration solution.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Visit Ooma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Ooma. Smart communications for the smarter business.
There's an increase in positive pot tests.
One of the country's biggest drug testing labs, Quest Diagnostics, says of the more than 6 million general workforce urine tests it conducted last year, 3.9% came back positive for marijuana. That's an increase of more than 8% from 2020 and 50% from 2017. The Wall Street Journal notes that since that time, there's been a big jump in the number of states that have legalized the recreational use of marijuana, from 8 to 18, plus Washington, D.C. Christopher Cruz, CBS News.
A new TikTok trend could be the ultimate showing of true friendship.
I got a bracelet permanently welded on my wrist again. Now there's two. Let me show you the process because I know it sounds kind of crazy.
Yes, it does. You go to a jeweler who does the welding, putting it tight enough that it's not cutting off your circulation, but it won't ever come off. What happened to simple, colorful friendship bracelets made out of string? Stacey Lynn, CBS News.
The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Thanks to Tom Caron for stopping by. TC's interview available on our podcast channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. A little later today, you're going to hear a bit from Maury Hurst-Gordon. He is going to join us here at about about 6:50 or so. Tell us a little bit about Bryant University. He's a TV host up in Rhode Island. 6:45, 6:50. So Maury Hirsch-Gordon going to stop by at that point. Okay, question for the people. Question for the people, and I need all of you. I don't beg for interaction very often. I need interaction on this one. 802-585-3026, Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, also on the Facebook Live channel, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, wherever you're watching or listening to the show, I need you to interact. Is it okay for country music star Eric Church to have postponed his show for Saturday night so he could watch the Final Four? Did you see this story? I've been talking about this a lot throughout the day, but if you haven't been listening yet, did you see this story? Country music star Eric Church. Look, I'm not a country music fan. I know who Eric Church is. Certainly a big deal, a big name, a big draw. He postponed his show on Saturday in San Antonio so he could watch his beloved University of North Carolina Tar Heels play against Duke. Is that okay to you? He loves North Carolina. It's the first time UNC and Duke are playing in the NCAA tournament. It's Coach K's potential last game. You get a chance to end Coach K's coaching career. It's the Final Four. Winner goes to the national title. So that's the situation. Are you okay with Eric Church postponing his show to watch North Carolina in the Final Four against Duke? To me, this is incredibly weak. And if I were a fan, I would be absolutely furious at this. Somebody is calling in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. Person, I'm sorry, we cannot answer that phone call. That is not, you cannot answer the text line. The text line is only for text, so I apologize. So you got to text in with your thought. But I mean, I would be so unbelievably upset if I were somebody who was supposed to go to this show. Yes, big game, great game, historic rivalry, Duke UNC, Coach K's last game. I get all of it. This is still incredibly weak. Incredibly weak by Eric Church. I'd be disgusted at this if I were an Eric Church fan or an Eric Church concert goer. Like, there's the obvious, right? Like, what about the fans? I mean, and really, what about the fans? The little kid who got these tickets as a birthday present. You're really going to do this to him? The 17-year-old girl that this was her best Christmas gift. You're really going to do this to her? The mother and father that finally get a night out, that have the babysitter coming over or grandma on deck, they finally get a night out, and you're going to do this to them also you can watch UNC and Duke. The amount of selfishness and the amount of an insult to those fans, to me, completely disgusting. If a musician or a comedian or whoever I was supposed to see bailed for this reason, I would be absolutely furious. Like, if you told, I would be sympathetic if you told me, or it was well known that, like, hey, my dad and I went to every UNC game growing up, and my dad recently passed. It would mean a lot to me to see this game to honor him. I'd be okay with it. I would let you off the hook for something like that. If you told me, hey, my dad's in the hospital, this is the thing we bonded over, I'd be okay with that. I would have some sympathy for you canceling your show for a sporting event if there were extenuating circumstances. They don't appear to be the case here, other than he's a diehard UNC fan. That's not good enough to me. This is incredibly weak. Like, can't you watch the game later? I mean, there's a reason why we don't like watching sporting events taped, right? Because we go on social media, we see a score ticker, somebody texts us, and we figure out what happened. We don't like to watch sporting events after the fact. I'm with you. But if you just avoid your phone, with a conscious choice, you can watch it later and not have it ruined for you. I mean, seriously, the game is at 7:49 Central Time. The game tips off at 7:49 Central Time. I don't know how things work like with openers and all that, but what time is he going to get on? He's going to get on at 8:15, and he's going to play for an hour and a half, and it's going to be 9:45 Central Time. He'll be 2 hours behind the fact. Watch the game on tape. Avoid your phone. Fast forward through the commercials and get yourself caught up. You'll be done with the game by 11:30 that way. It's not like you got to watch the thing tomorrow or 4 days later. You can still do the concert and not know what happened in the game and still watch it in a pretty timely manner. I mean, if you just commit to not going on your phone for a little while, you'll be good. 3, I had somebody say earlier, like, hey, what about the game day environment? You know, he wants to get into the mood all game long. He's a musician. He's a country music musician. He's probably going to have a couple of beers before the show, a couple of beers on the stage. He's going to be nice and limber, I'm sure, by the time game times come. He's got the perfect pregame. He's a country singer. A couple beers before the show, 2 beers during the show, get a nice little edge off you. You go watch the game after, you're 5 beers in, and boom, there you go. You've replicated the environment that you want. Not a good enough excuse to me. 4, doesn't he have no play dates? When you go on tour, if somebody out there is a musician, tell me how this works. Don't you have no play dates? Hey, I'm going on tour from the end of February until October. I need these 6 dates off. Well then, okay. If you didn't put when the Final Four is, the Final Four date is set, the national championship game is set. If you think, if North Carolina basketball is so important to you that you just don't even want to chance it, them being in this game, put it to no play date. I'm not playing on Saturday of the Final Four, and I'm not playing on Monday of the national championship game. Couldn't he do shows on Friday and Sunday and get around it? Put it a no play date. How hard is that? Like, you've got to think ahead. If it's so important to you to maybe see North Carolina basketball in the NCAA tournament in the Final Four, put a no play date on your tour there. Like, athletes can't just skip games that they want to watch. Or they can't just skip their own games to go watch other games. Like, Mike Trout's a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. If the Angels are playing in September, and Mike Trout can't just miss that game to watch Eagles football. I'm sure there's a lot of NBA guys that want to watch the World Series or something. Can't, because they're playing. I'm sure there's a lot of baseball guys that want to watch early season football. Can't. Want to watch early season college football. Can't. The job, when you're at that level, the job gets in the way. You just got to accept that. You know that going in. Put a no play date out there. And then here's the kicker. Here's one of the kickers for me. Eric Church didn't even go to North Carolina. He didn't even go to UNC. This isn't his alma mater. If it were your alma mater, everything I said would still stand, but this isn't even your alma mater. Like, you went to Appalachian State. So you're a big UNC fan. You went to Appalachian State. You've already seen North Carolina win multiple championships. You've already seen North Carolina play in multiple Final Fours in your lifetime. Okay, what's different about this one is that it's Duke and that it's Coach K. I get it. Watch the damn thing later. 802-585-3026. How do you feel about this? Let's see. All right, Joe. I'm a country music fan. If I had tickets, I'd be ticked. He canceled it for a basketball game. Yes, it's March Madness, but you got it. Yes, but let's see. Basically, yeah, he says this is foul. Not okay with it. Anthony says he's a lifelong Tar Heels fan, so yes, I'm okay with it. He's watching it with his wife and kids. Don't care then. I don't care. Sorry. His wife has seen North Carolina in the title game before. His kids, I don't know how old they are. They're going to have plenty of chances to see it again and share that memory with him. I don't even know that he's actually going to the game. I think he's just watching it at home. This one is completely foul to me and completely weak. Mary and Randolph, not fair to the fans who spent money on tickets, childcare, and travel arrangements. Pretty selfish. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Not cool. Not cool. Not good at all there. Okay? When you're Joe the accountant, you can blow off work to watch the title game. When you're Susie, the sandwich maker at the local delicatessen, same thing. When you're Mark and you work at the gas station, you can blow off certain things. When you're Eric Church and you're getting 18,000 people in your arena or more, and all of them have made a concession to come see you, you owe it to them. You owe it to them. Unnamed texter. Absolutely not this okay. Brady, that's, let's see. That's childish. You're an adult. Fulfill your responsibilities. And Brady, your dad would want you to be responsible too in his honor. Okay? That is one way of looking at it, like I said. And again, now we're kind of picking at things, but like, if I'm Eric, like let's just say, okay, I'm this radio host, and I've been doing this show for 2 years, right? Like pretty much true, 2 years. And if every day I talked about my dad and my bonding over the Red Sox, and then I skipped a show to go to the Red Sox game, I think you might have a little more compassion for that, right? Number one, it's easier. Someone else can do the show. But number two, it's been largely established that I am a big Red Sox fan and my dad are big Red Sox fans, and we bond over this together. I mean, maybe Eric Church sings every day about North Carolina. I've never heard of it, but I didn't even know that he was in North Carolina. Steve says, where is he from? He's from North Carolina, but he went to Appalachian State. He's not even a UNC grad. Robin Royalton. It's not okay, but he's probably going to swap it for one of his no play dates. My guess is it's on the ticket somewhere. The show can be postponed for any reason specified. Possibly. Still don't care. Still think that it's weak. When you are a dairy farmer, you cannot cancel. There you go. And a lot of people in the crowd, I don't think have a whole lot of sympathy. Some people called him a clown and said they would be boycotting his concerts. I just think it's weak. Like, set it out there that you don't want to play on the dates of the Final Four and the title. Don't even leave it up to chance. He didn't schedule it because North Carolina, was an 8 seed? He didn't schedule it because UNC didn't look great at the beginning of the year? That's the breaks. Every year, the Final Four national title. So let's just run this back here of people I've asked today. Most of you on the show here, like 5 of the 6 of you that have texted in, agree with me. But Lee Cattell, he agreed with me. Calvin at WCAX in the afternoon news, he agreed with me. We had Roger Hill agreed with me. And then we had Natalie Williams and Colin Flanders. Natalie from VT Digger, Colin at 7 Days. They agreed with Eric Church. They thought it was okay. I was split pretty much asking on the air. I was not split here on the show. Good. Smart listeners here on the Brady Farkas show. Eric Church. By the way, Freddie Coleman, I asked him what he thought about it.
It gives me an opportunity to see something like this, a happening event. That's the last time. So it lands pretty well with me, to be honest with you.
Freddie Coleman was okay with Eric Church doing this. I couldn't believe it. I was like, Freddie, you're supposed to be a man of the people. Even Freddie was on Eric Church's side. I'm glad that our listeners here are smart, though. 802-585-3026. See, George Thomas, Jazz with George Thomas, he's hanging out there in the back room. George, nod your head at me if you hear this. Are you okay with Eric Church, the country singer, canceling his concert to stay home and watch a basketball game, which is what he did? George, the musician, the man of the music here at 7 o'clock, even he's shaking his head at Eric Church. I mean, seriously, Eric Church, I don't know. How many millions has Eric Church made off of these fans? Do the damn show. 802. And by the way, go Duke. I already wanted Duke to win, but now I want him to win to spite Eric Church. So 802-585-3026. Let's stick with college basketball here momentarily. Let's get a couple quick notes on UVM as my blood pressure comes down. One, big man Ryan Davis has been selected to play in the senior all-star game. That comes up Friday at the aforementioned Final Four. So Friday afternoon at 3:30, Ryan Davis is going to play in the senior all-star game. Look, this can only be a good thing. This can only be a good thing. We talk about Davis getting professional looks or getting NBA looks. This is where it all starts. Put yourself on the court with other senior college players and see where you stand. Scouts are going to be there because it's at the Final Four. Go out there and show what you can do. Ryan Davis talks about wanting to play professionally. This is the first step in accomplishing that. You're out there, and everything you do from this point forward is a showcase and is a tryout. So I wish Ryan Davis best of luck. You want opportunities to get in front of people. That's all you can ask for. Playing at the senior all-star game is an opportunity to get in front of people. That is all you can ask for. After my rant yesterday at the end of the show about Davis and NBA looks, Travis, my Twitter nemesis who set off the whole thing, he got back to me and said, clearly we need to define look. Someone doing a pre-draft interview or showing up to watch a workout is a really weak definition of look. Are we talking a summer league invite? The bottom line is he is an NBA material. He's not G League material. He's a good America East player. Well, I define Ryan Davis getting a look as anything that gets you in front of NBA people. He's going to get workouts. He's possibly going to get a summer league roster spot. He's going to get some G League opportunities. He is going to get an opportunity. What he does with that opportunity is up to him and is up to NBA front offices. He is going to get them, though. And for the record, I don't think Ryan Davis is NBA material either. He's not big enough to be a post player. He's not athletic enough to be a wing player, in my mind. I hope I'm wrong. I think he's got a chance to play in the G League. I'd love to be wrong. So I'm kind of with Travis that I don't think he's an NBA player. Does not mean he's not going to get a look. Guys that play Division III ball get workouts with NFL teams. They got it. They get a look. They get a chance. Does not mean that they're going to be suiting up on Sunday. Guy who throws 88 miles an hour, some scout somewhere goes to watch him on some backfield to say they did. Ryan Davis will get the equivalent of that. He might get more than that. And it might end there, but he's going to get a look, and he deserves to get a look. And what he does with it, it's up to him. It's up to front offices. 2, Ben Shungu, South Burlington native, Rice Memorial product. He was named a finalist for the Lou Henson Award. That is the Mid-Major Player of the Year Award. It's a great credit to him. It's a great testament to him. He absolutely deserves to be in that conversation. I had somebody else ask me on the Napa-Morrisville, Napa-Waterbury text line if Benny is a guy who I think will get NBA looks. I asked, I said that Davis would. Someone asked if Benny will. I think Shungu is a harder NBA sell. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great catamount. I think he's athletic, but he's listed at 6'2", which means he's more like 6'1", and that's a short guard in the NBA. If you're going to be that short, you've got to have something that's elite about you. And I just don't think that Benny has something that's that elite. Like Steph Curry is 6'2" and thin. He gets away with it. Why? He's the greatest shooter of all time. Benny doesn't have that. He doesn't have some incredible vertical. He doesn't have some incredible strength. He's very strong at our level. He was strong against Arkansas. The NBA is a whole different brand of strong. So I wouldn't be shocked if Benny gets a workout somewhere along the lines. But, I did think that Traybell Haynes was more pro-ready coming out of UVM. He was more of a natural point guard and had better passing skills than Benny does. So Benny's athletic, plays good defense, works his tail off. He may get a look too, but I think he's a harder sell than Davis is. Like if you ask me which of those two I'm more confident in getting a look, it would be Davis by a pretty wide margin. But Benny will also play professionally if he wants to. There will be a place in Europe for Benny, no doubt about it, if he wants to. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Let's see. Tammy, my apologies. Tammy says about the Eric Church thing, I'm surprised he's being allowed to do this by whoever manages his tour dates. Maybe he has a clause or an out in his contract to allow this. He evidently doesn't care if his fans are upset with him. He's doing it, I guess, just more power to him. He did say, I'm not defending him, but he did say, this is the most selfish thing I've ever asked of my fans. Well, yeah, it's selfish. And there's fans that aren't going to forgive you for this, and I frankly understand why. I think that this is ridiculous. Watch the game 2 hours later. I mean, I don't know how many openers Eric Church has, but, get on stage at 8:15, play till 9:45, be gone, and catch the game 2 hours later and watch it commercial free at that point. Sounds pretty good to me. Bring the family to the concert. Let them watch it with you in your hotel room. I don't care. I don't care what you do, but do the show. Somebody said even put the game up on a big screen while the concert's going on. If Eric Church can focus and still put on a good show while the game is being played, then sure, I'd be all for that too. What a memory it would be. But evidently he's just not doing the show, and that doesn't sit well with me. All right, we will get to who's saying what on the other side of this commercial break. Earlier, we spoke with Red Sox insider at NESN, Tom Caron. We'll play you back a bunch of that sound. What was up with the Red Sox lineup today, and what does it mean moving forward? We'll talk about it with you next on WDEV.
Hi, everyone. This is Jess Langlois
and Chief Meteorologist Dan Dowling
from the Channel 3 Max Advantage Weather Team, reminding you that every day we are tracking the weather and getting you the most accurate forecast
from the most experienced weather team tonight from 4 to 7 and at 11 p.m.
We forecast with straight talk and no hype,
so you can take advantage of the clear days
and have the advantage over stormy weather.
There's a 100% chance of accurate, experienced, and trusted forecast
tonight and every night from the Channel 3 Max Advantage Weather Team.
First in weather.
Just because you're away from your radio or out of our broadcast range doesn't mean you have to miss out. Listen live on the WDEV stream, brought to you by AARP Vermont. WDEV's morning, midday, and afternoon news services, Vermont Viewpoint, and the Brady Farkas Show can all be found on the WDEV stream at WDEVradio.com. Brought to you by AARP Vermont, working to bring down the cost of prescription drugs for all Americans. AARP.org/VT.
Are you tired of living with chronic pain, knee pain, joint pain? Listen carefully, because now there are new treatments available, not talking surgery or steroids. These are regenerative treatments from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the leader in these exciting biologic therapies that help restore and repair damaged tissue in your joints with lasting results. If you've got pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, or back, joint pain that won't go away, you need to check out these new treatments with astonishing patient satisfaction reports. They can actually help your body restore and repair itself with no downtime, no drugs, and no surgery. Call now to schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. Call 802-PAINLESS. You need to learn more about how biologic therapies are changing the way we think about dealing with joint pain. It's exciting stuff. Don't wait. Call today. QC Kinetics, 802-PAINLESS. That's 802-PAINLESS.
Spring is here, and with warmer temps, outdoor projects and spring sports are in the air. Let the Body Lounge in Stowe ease your body aches with the healing power of arnica to soothe those sore muscles and achy joints. The Body Lounge in Stowe makes an extensive line of powerful arnica products, creams, lotions, oils, bath salts, and CBD-infused formulas. The Body Lounge on the Mountain Road in the Red Barn Shop, Stowe.
Hi, this is Anson Tebbets, co-host of For the Birds, heard Saturdays on WDEV. Each week, Chip Darmstadt and I discuss bird sightings, bird counts, and activity at your feeder. You also can listen anytime to podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Join us Saturdays at 7:30 and 12:15 For the Birds. 28 years on WDEV AM and FM and streaming at WDEVradio.com.
Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Brought to you in part by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training online at ProDriverCDL.com. They've got facilities in Enosburg and in Milton, so it could be the next great step in your career. On the Eric Church front, Jamie in New York says that the fans would be okay with him canceling his show for a Cowboys Super Bowl. That's true. The San Antonio crowd would. If Eric Church was doing this for the fans, for their team, it'd be different. If he was doing it for his team like he is, it's not okay. Dane in Rochester says, Brady, move on, dude. Thank you, Dane. Now that I have, thank you. Because you said so, I will move off the Eric Church story. But I'll have you know that the Eric Church story elicited the most texts we've had all week on any one topic. So, Dane, I talk about what the people want to hear. So people liked hearing about Eric Church. Maybe you didn't, but everybody else did. But Dane says move on, so we're moving on. All right, let's get to who's saying what.
Whoa. What did he say? Mac Jones? Good Lord. Mel Kiper's got to slow down on this. Mac Jones ain't going to work, folks. It's not going to work. He's got to come to terms with it. It's not going to work.
They really said that?
Every damn thing is politics and race, and I'm losing my mind over it.
It's time for Who's Saying What on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
All right, Who's Saying What? Brought to you by Vermont Laser Wash. That's Central Vermont's home of unlimited car washes. So if you want unlimited car washes, it's only $20 a month. If you want just one free car wash, well, the listeners just need to text the word Vermont to the number 30 and then 400. So that's the number 30 and then 400. Dane says, thank goodness you're moving on. Well, there you go. Again, Dane has asked for it, so we have moved on to Who's Saying What. So Tom Caron, Red Sox and Bruins insider at NESN, he was with us earlier, and we talked a lot about the Red Sox lineup and how it was constructed today. And Red Sox won. They scored 10 runs, so I can't say the lineup didn't work, but they beat the Braves. But I was surprised at the construction of this lineup. I liked the players in it by and large, but I didn't love the overall construction. And this looks like it very well could be the lineup opening day next Thursday when the Red Sox take on the Yankees. Here was the lineup in case you missed it. Kike Hernandez led off in center. Rafael Devers batted second and played third. Xander Bogaerts hit third and played short. JD Martinez was the cleanup hitter. He was at the DH spot. Alex Verdugo hit fifth and played left. Trevor Story hit sixth and played second. Bobby Dahlbeck was the seventh hitter. He played first. Jackie Bradley played right and hit eighth. Christian Vasquez was the catcher, and he hit ninth. So, again, the players largely fine. You know my thoughts on Jackie Bradley Jr., but he looks like he's going to be a starter, so I just got to accept that. So the players, fine. The orientation of it was weird to me. I really thought this lineup has 6 righties in it and 3 lefties. I really thought it was going to go right, left, right, left, right, left. We didn't see that. We did not see that. I thought JBJ would be hitting 9th. I thought Verdugo would hit 6th. Instead, JBJ was 8th. Verdugo was 5th. So I just was surprised. I thought it was going to be right, left. It wasn't. That was kind of my number one takeaway and kind of the number one thing that confused me because I think that would have made sense. 2, why was Trevor Story hitting 6th? Why was Trevor Story hitting 6th? That really surprised me. Like, you're paying Trevor Story $140 million. If I'm going to pay you $140 million, aren't I paying you to be an impact player at the middle of your lineup? Isn't that my goal? to have Trevor Story in the middle of my order. And if you're hitting him 6th, aren't you taking away some of that ability for him to be that guy who's a run producer? And if you're going to hit Trevor Story 6th, and you're going to hit him in front of Dahlbeck and Bradley and Vasquez, you're making a whole hell of a lot easier for teams to pitch around Trevor Story, which is, I don't think, something that you really want. You want Trevor Story getting pitches to hit. But if I've got a runner on second and 1 out and Trevor Story's at the plate, well, guess what? I'm walking Trevor Story, and I'm looking for the strikeout machine, Bobby Dahlbeck, and then I'm looking for 163, Jackie Bradley Jr. behind him. So if the Red Sox hit Trevor Story 6th, not only are they limiting his run-producing ability, they're limiting, in my mind, his ability to even get a ton of good pitches to hit, because with the swing and miss that is behind him in that order, he's very easy to pitch around. I asked Tom Caron of NESN about it. Here's what TC said.
That he thinks Trevor Story can use his speed more in the 6th hole rather than maybe a potential out if you're being a little overly aggressive higher up in the order, down in the 6th spot. You can kind of go after it and grab that extra base, whether you're going 1st or 3rd on a hit or trying to score from 2nd, or just steal a base, which we know Story can do.
I mean, I guess that's fair. TC is right. Like, if you're hitting 6th and you've got the, quote, lighter hitters behind you, like, you can take more chances on the bases, right? We've got to go 1st to 3rd. We've got to go 2nd to home because the big boppers are not behind us. You're not going to run into outs as easy. You don't want to run into outs if you're hitting 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. You can be a little more aggressive on the bases when you're hitting 6th and these guys are behind you. That's true, but I signed Trevor Story to produce runs for me. I didn't think I signed Trevor Story to just go 1st to 3rd a little more freely. So Story hitting 6th against righties is something that I'm not necessarily good with. I mean, he's going to hit higher against lefties. I believe that. I think he'll probably hit 2nd against lefties and he'll push Devers down. So we'll see him higher up in the order, but when Trevor Story was signed, I thought he was going to be a guy who's either in the middle of my order to bring in runs, or at the very least, he's hitting 2nd all the time to set the table for the guys who are in front of me, and you can't pitch around him. Now, hitting 6th, he's pretty easy to pitch around. My other question for TC along those lines, why was Alex Verdugo hitting 5th? Why was Alex Verdugo hitting 5th? Here's what TC said.
He's got power to the gaps, right? Not necessarily a big home run guy, but when he's staying within himself, he can certainly use that left center gap and pull a little bit to right center gap. I think they like the possibility of him unlocking that power potential to the gaps a little more as he goes.
Yeah, Verdugo to me is not a power hitter. Verdugo to me is a contact hitter with, like TC said, gap-to-gap power. I'd like to see my 5-hitter be a guy that can bring in a bunch of runs. I'd like to see my 5-hitter be a guy who can, who can put a fear into an opposing pitcher. And I don't know that Verdugo does that. He is a contact guy. He is a good hitter. He's not a total liability. I like Verdugo as a player, but I just think that Verdugo in the 5 spot, I think he's better served a little lower in the order. He doesn't. Now, the one thing I'll say if he does hit 5th is that he will get more pitches to hit because they'll pitch around the 4-hitter and won't want to face Story. So maybe Verdugo sandwiched in between those 2 spots will get more pitches to hit. I do think that that's fair. But I want my 5-hitter to be more of a classic 5-hitter, a guy who puts fear into opposing pitchers and opposing pitching coaches. I don't love that. So at the end of the day on the lineup, I'm paying Trevor Story $140 million. I'd like to see him in a run-producing spot or at least a chance to hit in front of my run producers. And also, if Verdugo hits 5th and Story 6th, I'm going to get Verdugo more at-bats in the course of a game than Story. And that's not what I want. I signed Story to a $140 million contract. I want him to hit as much as possible. I want him hitting more often than Verdugo. I don't want a game to end with Verdugo when it should have been Story up there. So, look, my ideal lineup is Kike in center, Story at second, hitting second, Devers, my best overall hitter, hitting third, Bogarts at short, JD Martinez hitting fifth, a power hitter, but a guy who now I'm not convinced is going to hit for great average, Verdugo hitting sixth, then Dahlbeck, then I'd have Vasquez, and then I'd have Jackie Bradley. Like, that's what my lineup would be. We're not too far off, but that's what my lineup would be. Now, Brian Barrett of WEEI came out and reminded us all how great Devers was in the two-hole back in a couple of years ago. So, fine. Devers is a great hitter. He can hit anywhere. But I'd love to have Story hitting in front of him. If I can go Kike, who can get on base and run, to Story, who can get on base and run and has power, to Devers, my best overall hitter, to Bogarts, an unbelievable all-around player, to Martinez, a guy who's got power but is a little more of a wild card now as he's into his mid-30s, then Verdugo, then Dahlbeck. Like, I feel really good about that top seven. I just don't love the order that it was assembled today. Tom says, doesn't really make sense. Not sure what metrics they are maybe seeing that we don't. I mean, TC talked a bit about that. Like, you know, he thinks that, Verdugo, I can't explain the exact metrics, to be honest with you. TC talked about what metrics they use and talked about how Verdugo's good against certain profiles of pitchers and all that, and that's fine. I'm paying Trevor Story $140 million. I want him hitting more often than Alex Verdugo. We did ask TC one more question, though. He said, we asked about who the fourth outfielder was going to be, just out of curiosity, right? You've got Bradley, Verdugo, and Kike. Asked him, well, hey, Duran got sent down, so it's not him. What about Rob Refsnyder, the old Yankees prospect? What about Franchi Cordero? Who's the fourth outfielder going to be? Here's what TC said. Surprising answer.
Well, right now, I don't think it's either. Right now, I think it's Christian Arroyo as the super utility guy. They've had Arroyo working quite a bit in the outfield. He was out there yesterday and looked pretty good. Alex Cora telling us that JD Martinez is going to be part of the outfield mix, especially in right field. Against lefties, that might be when Jackie Bradley Jr. isn't in the lineup as much.
All right. So Christian Arroyo is apparently the fourth outfielder. I don't love that, but I got to say, I kind of forgot about JD Martinez's ability to play the outfield. I mean, JD can be a fourth outfielder. You don't want to put him out there a ton. You don't want to put him out there all the time, but he certainly can play out there, and he likes playing out there. So if you get Martinez out there, he's kind of the fourth outfielder. And then Arroyo's kind of that fifth guy, a floater guy. I can live with that. I'd rather have Arroyo. I like Arroyo. I think Arroyo's good. I like that he can play all over the field. So I am for Arroyo getting action. I'd rather have Arroyo than Refsnyder. I don't know exactly, how often Arroyo's going to play in the outfield. I hope it's not a ton, but I like Arroyo getting in the game. So it's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. All right, let's see. Oh, I got to give Mac Jones some credit real quick, by the way. We've heard all along about Mac Jones's great intangibles, and we've seen that on the field. And Mac yesterday was out at the Boys and Girls Club of Brockton in Massachusetts, spent some time with the kids, presented a check for $100,000, told them, gave them some motivational words. I love it. I think Mac Jones is a very good guy. I think Mac Jones has a very good shoulder on his head. As I said yesterday, just having the intangibles alone does not make you great. Just having the intangibles alone does not make you great. But you can't be truly great if you don't have the intangibles either. So Mac Jones has them. Good community stuff. I think it's really important for him to stay in the area, to ingratiate himself in the community, to make a difference, donated money, but also donated time, and did it in a setting where he's helping kids. That's what leaders do. That's what captains do. That's what quarterbacks do. All of this, ultimately, football-wise, comes down to how much talent he has and how much talent is around him. Just being a good guy does not absolve him of overall blame or criticism as the Patriots quarterback. But again, the great ones, they all have great intangibles. Mac Jones has the great intangibles. And as much as we may criticize this, that, or the other about any kind of on-field stuff, he deserves to be recognized when he's doing the right thing off the field. And he seems to be doing that quite a bit. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. All right, when we come back, UVM has a new conference rival, Maury Hirschgordon, out from a television station, WRPI in Rhode Island. Lets us know a little bit about Bryant University. What's this move all about for them? How big a challenger can they be to UVM? Maury Hirschgordon is going to join us next on DEV.
WDEV at 90 is underwritten by Northfield Savings Bank. They're the bank of you and everything you do at nsbvt.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Celebrating 90 years. WDEV.
Do you know what people see when they Google you? Search engines don't always get it right. And when they're wrong, it's your reputation on the line. So what do you do when you don't agree with your search results? Call Reputation Defender at 800-401-6681. Reputation Defender is one of the most trusted names in online reputation repair. We have over a decade of experience in fixing people's search results, and we can help you too. Using cutting-edge approaches, Reputation Defender pushes unflattering information down to lower pages of your search results, where few people ever look. We also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, letting you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. You owe it to yourself to take control with Reputation Defender. Visit www.reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 for free advice on your situation. That's 800-401-6681.
Building materials are hard to find, but Cleveland Cedar Products in Wolcott has red cedar and hemlock clapboards, cedar shakes and shingles. Cleveland Cedar has a great variety of trim boards as well. No one will beat Cleveland Cedar Products' freestanding prices or quality. Family-owned Cleveland Cedar Products has over 30 years of siding experience. Talk to the experts. Cleveland Cedar Products, 3 miles west of Wolcott Village on Route 15 and online at cedarguy.com.
Are you worried about your paycheck or safety at work? The U.S. Department of Labor wants to make sure you're protected and paid properly. Call us at 866-487-WAGE or visit worker.gov.
Early on, WDEV owner Lloyd Squire set the mission.
No business or service exists entirely within itself. It must be a part of the area in which it lives, not just as a member of the community, but as a contributor to the life of that area.
Over the decades, we feel WDEV has made valuable contributions, including local high school and college sports, and expanding our offerings with podcasts and our reach with streaming. Advancements my dad couldn't even have anticipated. What's next?
We don't know, but we're hoping you'll help us experience it together. You can support WDEV with a gift of $90 to celebrate our 90 years and help ensure 90 more. You can send checks to P.O. Box 550, Waterbury, Vermont, 05676, or make credit card payments online at WDEVradio.com. We've been on this journey together. Let's continue it that way. Thank you.
Your chance to be part of the show is on the text line at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Yeah.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Yesterday it became official. Bryant University joining the America East. They're going to take the spot of Stony Brook. The Seawolves leaving for the Colonial Athletic Association. So UVM has a new rival, and Bryant looks pretty good across multiple sports. And joining us now is Rhode Island television personality Maury Hirschgordon. He is with us now. So Maury, appreciate you being with us. And you know, this had been talked about for a while. This was kind of a poorly kept secret. We had heard about this a couple of weeks ago. What's the motivation behind this move for Bryant?
Yeah, well, Bryant's a school that's busting out at the seams. They're ready to take their talents to bigger and better conferences. And the America East, for all their sports other than football, is a great fit. You know, this is an athletics department that has really been atop the NEC in many different sports, particularly the money-making sports, men's basketball in the last 2 years. 26-6 in the NEC. They had the nation's leading scorer in Peter Kiss and got to their first dance for the first time in their Division I program history. So it's a school that's got a lot of potential, and it's a school that has the resources. They're building a brand new basketball facility that should hold over 3,000 people. And this is a school that has young rising coaches as well. So it makes perfect sense to stay in New England, to have some of those regional ties, and really looking forward to seeing those UVM and Bryant matchups across all schools.
You know, I was initially, when I heard this a couple of weeks ago, before I really did all my research, I was initially skeptical of this move. The Northeast Conference in men's basketball is the 30th rated out of 32 conferences in the RPI. So I looked at this as, couldn't they do better than Bryant? But you're starting to get me excited. This sounds like it's a good fit regionally, but it sounds like they do have the stomach to compete in this league.
No doubt, and it starts at top with their head coach, Jared Grosso. This is a guy that built a mid-major power, a consistent power year in and year out under Tim Cluse at Iona, which is the college that Rick Pitino coaches at, if you're not familiar up there in Vermont. But, Rick Pitino has done wonders with that job in just 2 seasons. He took over for a guy, Tim Cluse, who Jared Grosso was right under for a number of years. I believe in the last 8 years, it was 5 NCAA tournaments and 3 NITs. That's off memory there. But Jared Grosso has since taken his first head coaching job full-time at Bryant in the last few years, and he's brought them to heights that the program's never seen. Last year, 10-4 in the NEC, a championship game appearance. They hosted Mount St. Mary's. This year, 16-2 in the league, and they beat Wagner to win the regular season at home, and then they blew them out on national television. So this is a program and a team that's ready to compete in the America East. They've already flirted with a lot of America East opponents, whether that's UNH or whether that's Stony Brook or other teams in the past. So this is a team that's ready to compete against the likes of Vermont, the likes of Albany, if they can get it going again like they did, in recent memory, and UMBC. So this is a program that should be there soon enough. Beyond men's basketball, it seems like Bryant is a good fit in the other sports that the America East cares about, specifically men's lacrosse, and also women's lacrosse has had a good run at times as well. They have. No doubt. Baseball as well. Let me throw that in the mix as well. Always one of the better. Well, we don't have baseball, unfortunately, in Vermont. I know you guys don't, but the rest of the league does, and they are pretty good. So Brian's definitely ready to get in baseball wise. But yeah, when you look at men's lacrosse specifically, that's one of the marquee sports here at Bryant. They're led by Mike Kressler, who used to be the head coach at Duke a number of years ago. And he's done really well with Bryant. They were in the NCAA tournament this past season and pushed Virginia to the brink, lost 13-11. That Virginia squad went on to win the national championship. He's upset Syracuse at the Carrier Dome before. So, like I said off the top, a lot of other sports outside of just men's basketball ready to compete in the middle to the upper tier of the America East. Well, Maury, we appreciate the time and the perspective. You can check Maury's work out on social media. He's the sports director over there at the CBS and Fox affiliate in Southern New England, and he's out in Rhode Island. So, Maury, I'm sure we'll cross paths again here as UVM and Bryant become conference rivals. We appreciate it. You got it, Brady. Anytime. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Maury Hirsch-Gordon, again, out in Rhode Island. Okay. I'm sold. I am sold on Bryant in the America East. I was wrong a few weeks ago. This is a good move overall for the America East Conference. When I said how against it I was a few weeks ago, I was speaking from a place of emotion. I was speaking from a place of frustration that UVM couldn't really raise its profile in this whole conference realignment process. That is what I wanted. That's what I had hoped for, and that's what I was shooting for. And then when it became apparent that that wasn't really going to happen, you have to start realizing that Bryant is a good fit and probably was the best that the league could do. It's good for the entirety of the league. Bryant brings in, to Maury's point, good men's lacrosse program, good baseball program, success in women's lacrosse,
men's basketball. So for the overall health and competitiveness of the league, you're bringing in a program that has done well across multiple sports. That's important. Bryant is a regional school, meaning your travel costs and everything associated are okay. That's good for everybody. And 3, Bryant has resources and appears to be dedicated to athletics. And that's really all you can ask for. Maury talks about them, building a new 3,000-seat basketball arena. He talks about the department's commitment to athletics. And that goes with everything that I had heard all day about Bryant. I mean, I asked both Tom Caron and Freddie Coleman about Bryant, and they both spoke very, very highly of Bryant. Like, here was TC on Bryant. Good program that is really across the board in sports. And you saw them; they were fun to watch this year in the NCAA playing game when they made that run. It's a school much like Merrimack that has put a lot of money and a lot of improvements into their facilities to take that jump to full-time D1, and it's really paid off. Okay, so they invest money. They care about athletics. They've been good across multiple sports, multiple programs, multiple genders. I've got to be okay with that. 3 weeks ago, a month ago, whenever it was, when I said how against it I was wrong. Bryant appears to be a good fit, and it does appear to be the best that the conference can do. And I hope that UVM gets a new rival out of this across multiple sports. It sounds like it's promising in that regard. So Joe wants to know, could Bryant make this a 2-bid league, the America East? Certainly not in basketball. Absolutely not. Maybe in men's lacrosse, potentially down the road, but not in basketball. That's going to do it for us here. Jazz with George Thomas is coming up next. Thanks to Tom Caron, Freddie Coleman, Maury Hirschgordon, all of them for stopping by. Tomorrow, we chatted up with Buster Olney, who is continuing his coverage of spring training. We'll talk a little Red Sox with Buster at 5:45. That'll do it for us. Go download the full show podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. See you tomorrow. It's DEV.
At Matt Clark's Northern Basement Systems, they specialize in